So, good morning and welcome to Let's Have the Conversation. Because the conversations that shape our lives and our communities don't happen when everything is clear or easy or resolved. They happen in the middle, in the tension, in the returning, in the becoming. I'm Desiree B. Stevens, educator, counselor, and founder of Makeshift Happen, home of Liberation Education and the Liberation Method. This is the space where we tell the truth about what it actually takes to build intentional, intersectional, and sustainable communities, not just in theory, but in how we live, relate, and show up with one another in real time. So wherever you are, take a breath, arrive in your body, and let's have the conversation. I am loving this little intro. I want to work on memorizing it. Or like I said, last week I'm trying to find a teleprompter that I could do this and be live with. I have not found that technology. If you do know that, let me know. Let me know. Let me know. So, how we do things here is we have three talking points. So we go through the talking points, there's reflections, there's reframes, there's practice your praxis. All of that is included inside of these mini lessons on community building. So I wanted to offer the opening. I write these things out so I can have some guidance because I love chatting with you guys. And if I don't write it out this way, I will just keep on going. So here we go. We've been talking about the unfolding of relationships, about what it means to stay present while something is becoming. And today, I want to root that conversation in where we actually are right now. You know that for me, I do my work seasonally, right? We move through season of self, season of renewal, season of becoming, et cetera, et cetera. So right now we are in transition. We're actively in the season of renewal and moving into the season of becoming. And that space in between, that's where things kind of get real, get a little bit sticky because renewal feels like possibility, right? Anything is possible. That weather shifts, that energy shifts, birds returning, and it's like all the things are possible. Everything I can do. But the act of becoming requires commitment, right? So moving from renewal into becoming requires commitment because renewal opens something, becoming asks you to stay with it. Is that it's not just theoretical, right? So that's what I'm kind of experiencing now. I wanted to share with you guys. It's happening in my life in a very real way. I'm back in the garden, back in the front yard. Let me show you. I know last year during our 100 days, or well, last year, I said I was going to do this, and I did. I moved the cars, and we have some beds going in right there. Those tires, they're going to get moved into certain quadrants. Right there is the intended farm stand. That's a little foundation. I'll go one more pallet higher on the sides, frame it in better so then we can have some goodies and some yummies. I'll grab some chickens in a couple of weeks. But that's going to be the community garden that I talked about. There we go. So for me, sorry, I'm trying to set my phone back up. So for me, it's not the same as it was before, right? This is a return, and I want to tell the truth about that return. This is the first time that I've gardened since my separation. The last time I had a garden, I wasn't the one who was tending it. He was because my body just couldn't. I was completely um like bedbound. It was absolutely awful. I was, navigating the spinal stenosis along with fibromyalgia and waiting on back surgery. Back surgery saved my life. So I spent a lot of time in the bed. So when I say for me, this is renewal, I mean that in my own body. This is me returning to something that I could not hold before. This is me reclaiming something that existed in a different version of my life. And at the same time, it's full circle. When I first moved into this home, I planted the garden in the front yard. My son took his first steps in that garden. He's 10 now. This home was once called Erin's Place. We had a gardening program where when Erin was 5, and they're 13 now. So time happens. This is part of our homeschool co-op, and now I'm back. But this time it's not just for us, it's for the whole community. And me getting the house next door for the Healing Homestead made that even more possible, right? So it's a space that people could actually step into, and I'm still close enough to manage my own self, my life, my children, my responsibilities, and still support the community. These are the ways of renewal, of becoming. So I'm just giving you certain examples. So this is where truth telling, right? We talked about it last week, especially when I was doing the natal chart with Leah on how transparent I am, because it shows you how I show up in community, which gives you a very good example of how you can and how telling your truth, being transparent, sharing your journey. And it doesn't have to be as public as mine, but sharing your journey with people within your community will help that becoming, that building, that growth. So, talking point one, renewal is return, and return requires truth. Talking point two, becoming requires capacity, not just desire. Talking point three, community is built through shared truth, not performance. So, let's get into it. I don't have my water, but grab your water, grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever your body needs to move through these things. Renewal is return, and return requires truth. Renewal is not just a fresh start. Sometimes renewal is a return to something you had to leave. And if we don't tell the truth about that, we create false narratives about what growth looks like. Because the truth is, there are things you don't return to quickly. Not because you don't want to, but because your body wasn't ready. Your life wasn't ready. Your capacity wasn't there. And when you finally do return, it's not casual, it's intentional, it's aware, it's grounded in everything you've had to move through to get back. Right? So that is my talking point, 1. There is only one person here, so there won't be a lot of back and forth this morning, so I'm gonna move right into the reframe. And reframe is renewal is not about starting over. It's about returning with truth. So ask yourself, what when we talk about renewal, I shared this before, it's not about becoming something new. It's often about a return. What do you need to return to? What do you need to renew in your life that existed before, may need to exist in a different way, that existed within community, but you'd like to refresh it, right? Like I said, my little garden, now it's taking up the whole yard. It was just this little front strip, and now it's the whole thing. That is a renewal. That is a return. The reflection that I offer here is, what in your life have you had to step away from? Not by choice, but by circumstance. And what would it mean to return to it now without rushing past what it took to get here? Right. So when you're sitting down and you're thinking, sometimes we do leave spaces, places, people, things because it is what is best for us. How do we return to a version of ourselves, the version of community that we desire? Right. How do we move through the pain, the hurt, whatever that may look like, and do that work of repair, whether it's with ourselves, with others, with people within your community, within the land, right? Gardening is a way to repair, because when we're talking about colonization, it doesn't just impact bodies, right? We leave out way too often the impact that colonization has had on the earth. She is alive and feels that and knows that she's been colonized, that she's been taken over, that we have made consumption out of everything. So when we can do something like a garden or we shared a few months back, like sitting with picnics and talking to trees, and it may feel too woo or too hippie, but these are small ways to return to truth. These are small ways to offer reparations, repair, restoration between your investment, your relationship, right? When I talk about supremacy culture, I tell you that it has disconnected and separated us from ourselves, from each other, and from the land. Part of this return, this renewal, this becoming is returning back to that. So, talking point two, becoming requires capacity, not just desire. I talk to you guys so often about capacity. You want to push through. Yesterday, I did my thing. I did. I locked in. But it took me all day, and I didn't just go at it once. I moved a couple of pieces of wood there, sat down, moved a couple of ties around, put together a bed, sat down, and I allowed myself the time that it needed to take, right? It did not have to it didn't have to be completed. I went with what my capacity was. Now, my desire was to have it all set up, have the soil, and put it. That's what I would have loved to do is have it all completed in one day. But that wasn't my capacity. And you have to recognize your capacity in order to do the building, right? So as we are moving into the season of becoming, and becoming is where things shift because desire is not enough. You can want something, you can envision something, you can feel inspired by something, but becoming asks us something deeper. Do you have the capacity to hold it all now? There were things I could not hold before, not because they weren't meant for me, but because my body needed healing. My life needed restructuring. My energy needed to return. And that's a truth that we don't talk about enough in community spaces. We push people to build, to show up, to expand without honoring whether they have the capacity to sustain it. And we talked about this in the power of staying, right? We will meet something with an emergent need, right? Like, okay, this is what we got to do. We got to show up. We need this. Okay, great. But you can't run out of steam, right? I've also referenced this work being like a relay race. You're running, but you have to pass the baton. And whilst when you pass that baton, you sit down, you rest, you take a breath, you stretch your body, you hydrate, right? Because your body can only run but so far and so fast. It cannot continue to do that. This way, you are building up your capacity, your endurance, your ability to stay, your ability to operate in the longevity of community building. So the reframe that I offer here is becoming is not wanting more. It's about having the capacity to tend to what is growing, right? So we could want all of the things. As an example, with the healing homestead, I wanted 5 acres at at least, so I could offer, healing gardens, so I can have like my little shanty town for people to come, healing retreats, et cetera, et cetera. That is my desire, right? Apparently, my credit score, money, don't have the capacity for that. So you build with what you have, right? So for me, that was renting the home and the space next door, right? This allows me to be able to host day retreats, to have a community garden, to have a learning space for children, to be able to still watch my kids when I have clients and they be right near me. All of those things, right? What is your capacity? What is your ability? And how do you tend to what's growing? This could be the first stop. This could be the last stop. I don't know. But I do know that I am going to tend to what is growing right here. This is what I'm going to give it up. We're actually going to have a really awesome, my birthday's April 14th, and April 18th, we're going to have a beautiful, like, open mic, poetry, um, fun little bash. I'll share the details another time. But yeah, so like, what are you tending to whilst it's growing? Right? We can't just run on the desire. We have to have the capacity, and we have to do the tending, right? The unfolding, the becoming. That is super important. The reflection that I offer here is ask yourself, where in your life are you trying to force becoming without honoring whether you have the capacity to sustain it? We do this all the time. We want it, we push, we keep pushing, keep pushing, and never questioning how will we maintain it, right? How? How can you maintain at this level consistently with life still happening, right? Because this work of liberation, this work of community building is a lifestyle. It is not a thing to do. It is not you clock in and you go to work and then you clock back out. It is how you live. It's how you show up in the world. It's how you show up in your work, how you show up in your home. It's how you show up with yourself. All of that matters. So, how do you have the capacity to sustain it? Talking point three. Community is built through shared truth, not performance. The garden is different now because it's not just mine. It's for the neighborhood. It's for the children. It's for programming. We have a summer program that we are introducing. It's the shared experience. And what makes something communal is not just access, it's honesty. If we're not telling the truth about what it takes to build, to return, to heal, then what we create will only hold performance, not real connection. Community cannot be built on curated versions of ourselves. It requires truth. Truth about capacity, truth about timing, truth about what we can and cannot hold. Because without that, we recreate the same systems we say we want to dismantle. Spaces where people feel like they have to show up perfectly instead of honestly. So as an example with this garden, all of this is mine. This is all the things that I already had in my own home, in my own back garden, and I have more to add to it, right? What I don't have is, let's say, soil. I have some tools. I could use some more tools. I have seeds. I have all of these things, right? These are the things that I bring, but that does not mean that I can hold it all. I can't get all the soil. I can't get all the tools. I can't, I can't shovel the soil into all of those things, right? So that is how, when we show up honestly and we say, here's the capacity that I have. Listen, I could do all of this, but I need somebody to frame up that that farm stand, or it's gonna fall down if you put an egg in there, right? I am doing a fundraiser because we need soil, we need some other things, and we need seedlings, right? Because I don't have the capacity for that. That is being honest. You have to be honest with yourself about what you actually can do and what you can provide. And what you can provide is valuable, right? But it doesn't mean you have to do the whole kit and caboodle. When you show up honestly in community, it allows for others to show up in their capacity honestly. Oh, well, you know what? Hey, my brother has a company, he does soil. We will donate that soil to you. Or we have tools. I work at Home Depot and I'm on the board of this, or all of these things that bring together community based on what each person can do. And in order to do that, we have to do that in truth. We have to be honest. What can you actually hold? What can you actually offer? What can you sustain? So, the reframe that I offer here is community is not sustained by perfection. It is sustained by people who are willing to tell the truth and stay. And the reflection that I offer is, ask yourself, where in your life are you performing readiness instead of being honest where you actually are, right? This is where I am. I have all of this stuff. When I get off of here, I'm going to go outside and I have plans of putting the tire gardens in 4 quadrants. So it's easier for programming and learning and companion planting, et cetera, et cetera. Um, All right, that's where I am. That's what I have the ability to do. I am going to go to the Home Depot and solicit soil. See if they have like some sort of a program for nonprofits, right? Like that is what I have the capacity to do. That is, where I'm at. Am I 100% ready? No, because the soil's not there, the seedling's not there, and I have to be honest about that. Because again, when I'm honest about that, then I can say, this is what I need. And somebody could say, this is what I got. This is what I can give you, right? It's a beautiful thing when we are allowing ourselves to show up in our truth, in our capacity, because then we allow others to step in as well. And that dismantles that individualism, because that is a killer of community. So here I ask you to take a breath. Notice what came up for you when you were hearing all of this. Notice if there's something in you that feels seen. Notice if there's something in you that feels exposed. Because truth telling in the body can feel both grounding and uncomfortable at the same time. And you don't have to resolve anything right now, right? You just have to notice. This is what I ask people, is to notice. The more we learn ourselves, the easier it becomes to navigate our feelings, our emotions, how we move with ourselves in our homes, at work, in community, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is such a necessary part of this work, is truthfully learning who you are. So, this is why this conversation about relationships matter, because relationships unfold in the same way. There are seasons of renewal, moments of reconnection, moments where something opens again, and then there is becoming, where the relationship either deepens or dissolves. And if we rush that process, if we avoid telling the truth inside of it, we lose the possibility of building something real. Community is not built in the moment things feel good. Community is built in the moments where we tell the truth and choose to stay present long enough to see what actually grows. Practice your praxis section. It's always self, home, and work. I firmly believe that we are the first site of our activism. We are the first site of community. We are our first selves, right? So we begin there. And then it trickles out to your home and your work, which is also community. So with yourself, what are you being invited to return to this season? Are you telling yourself the truth about what it will take to sustain it? In your home, what is being rebuilt, restored, or reimagined inside your home? Is there space for honesty there or only expectation? At work, what are you building that is ready to move beyond you? And are you creating space for others to enter it honestly or only when they appear ready? Right? Are we giving people the chances to show up honestly or do you demand that they be ready? That's perfectionism. Okay. We're dismantling those pillars of supremacy culture. So if there's one thing I want you to hold from this conversation, it's this. Renewal is not the finish line. It's the doorway and becoming. It's what happens when you choose to walk through that doorway with honesty, not rushing, not performing, but telling the truth about where you are, what you can hold, and what you're willing to tend. Because that's where real community is built. Not in perfection, not in performance, but in truth, in presence, in people who are willing to return and stay long enough for something real to grow. So this went quickly today because I do not have anybody but one person here, and I thank you for being here. And like I have said before, if there's one or 1,000, I am going to show up, right? That is what I have the capacity for. That is what I am willing to sustain. And 1 or 1,000,000 matters to me. So here's my outro. As we close this conversation, I want to leave you with this. You are not behind, you are in renewal. But the question is, will you allow what has been renewed to become? If this conversation resonated with you, you can continue this work through Liberation Education on Substack, where we go deeper into these reflections and practices together. And as always, stay present, stay honest, and keep tending to what matters. And let's keep having the conversation. Have a wonderful day. I shall be back on Wednesday.